Imagine opening your front door to receive a package from a courier. You cut through the bindings, pull back the wrapping, and inside is a dismembered piece of a human being.
Yeah, it's completely horrifying.
It really is. And that is not the inciting incident of some modern horror film. It is the climax of one of the most disturbing, shocking texts in ancient history.
Absolutely.
But before we step into this incredibly dark territory today, I want to take a moment to offer a sincere, divine blessing for your day and for the week ahead. May you find clarity, peace, and purpose in whatever you're facing right now. Because honestly, the story we're about to unpack in this deep dive is going to demand a lot of all of us.
It really is. Thank you for that, by the way. It's much needed because we are diving into Judges chapter 19 today.
Right.
And we're going to be relying heavily on the study notes from two very comprehensive biblical resources, the Holman and the NAA Study Bibles, to sort of help us navigate what is, locally, a terrifying landscape.
Yeah, terrifying is the right word. And our mission today is to decode what this text actually reveals about societal collapse. We aren't just, recounting an ancient true crime story here.
No, not at all.
We want to understand the mechanics of moral decay. Like, how does a civilization completely lose its compass? And to set the stage for that, both of our sources point to a recurring phrase in the book of Judges that serves as the thematic hook for this entire era.
Right. The phrase, "In those days there was no king in Israel."
Yes.
Which, is an incredibly loaded phrase. The authors aren't just giving us some dry political update about the lack of a centralized monarchy.
Yet it's not just a constitutional crisis.
Exactly. In the context of ancient Israel, no king signals absolute, unmitigated moral chaos. It is shorthand for an era where the social fabric has just completely disintegrated. And the companion phrase that often follows it is, "Everyone did what was right in their own eyes."
I want to pause on that because it's so easy to hear chaos and just picture a cartoonish, lawless wasteland, like everyone is just running around looting.
Mad Max style, yeah.
Right. But the text is pointing to something far more insidious, isn't it? It's not just that people are breaking the rules, it's that the very definition of righteousness has been warped. Like, everyone thinks they are the hero of their own story.
The true horror of Judges 19 is exactly that warped righteousness. When subjective personal preference becomes the only law, society doesn't just become dangerous.
Right.
It becomes fundamentally unpredictable. The institutions that were designed to protect the vulnerable are just turned inside out. And this free fall into the abyss actually begins with a seemingly mundane domestic dispute.
Yeah, so let's introduce the characters. We have a Levite living in the remote hill country of Ephraim, and his concubine, who is from Bethlehem in Judah.
Right.
Now, the NAA study notes clarify a crucial detail here for us. In the ancient Near East, a concubine wasn't just like a mistress. This was a legally recognized secondary wife.
Exactly. She had legal standing to produce heirs, but she lacked the dowry protections and the social security of a primary wife.
So she was incredibly vulnerable, both economically and socially.
Very much so. And something fractures in that relationship. The sources indicate she was either unfaithful or just deeply furious with him. So she leverages what little agency she actually has. She leaves.
Which is a huge deal.
It is. She travels back to her father's house in Bethlehem and stays there for 4 full months.
4 months is a massive amount of time in an agrarian society to just hit pause on a marriage.
Yeah, it's not a short weekend getaway.
Right. So finally, the Levite travels down to Bethlehem to, as the text puts it, speak kindly to her and win her back. He arrives at his father-in-law's house, and we run headfirst into a really bizarre situation.
Oh, the hospitality standoff.
Yes. The father-in-law insists on throwing this massive feast. They eat, they drink, and they stay. On the third day, the Levite tries to leave, but the father-in-law insists he stay to gladden his heart.
Right, and then the 4th day.
The exact same routine.
Yeah.
And then by the 5th day, the father-in-law is still physically preventing their departure with more food and drink.
It's relentless.
Reading this, my first instinct was to compare it to, that one relative who basically holds you hostage at a family gathering.
Oh, we all have one.
Right. You have your coat on, you're jingling your car keys, and they're literally blocking the door with a plate of leftovers, refusing to let you leave.
Yeah, just one more piece of pie.
Exactly. But I have to ask you, is this just extreme ancient politeness? Or is there a subtle power dynamic at play here? Like, is the Levite actually losing control of his own schedule in this dining room?
Well, the modern family gathering analogy is super relatable, but we really have to scale up the stakes significantly here. In the ancient Near East, hospitality was currency. It was intrinsically tied to honor and shame.
Okay, so it's much heavier.
Right. Think about the father-in-law's position. His daughter fled back to his roof. That is a massive public embarrassment for the husband, obviously. But it also implicates the father's household.
So by feeding him aggressively, he's reasserting dominance.
Exactly. The father-in-law is reestablishing his patriarchal authority. By forcing the Levite to yield to his schedule day after day, he is publicly demonstrating who actually holds the power.
Wow.
The Holman notes describe the scene as a comical excess of hospitality, but the underlying mechanism is a serious battle of wills. The host will not let the guest leave ungladdened, because to do so would be a failure of his own honor.
And that battle of wills over the dinner table has fatal consequences, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Because the Levite keeps capitulating to this oppressive hospitality. He doesn't manage to break away until late in the afternoon on the 5th day. So now they are on the road as the sun goes down, which forces a terrifying geographical dilemma.
Yeah, traveling at night in the ancient world was virtually a death sentence. You have bandits, predators, total lack of visibility. As evening falls, the Levite's traveling party, which includes the concubine and a servant, finds themselves near a city called Jebus.
And the NDA notes point out that Jebus is ancient Jerusalem, right?
Correct.
But at this point in history, it's about 6 kilometers north of Bethlehem. And it is not an Israelite city. It is a heavily fortified stronghold, firmly in the hands of the Jebusites, who are a pagan people.
Right.
So this servant looks at the setting sun and begs the Levite to stop. He wants to turn into this pagan city and just find safe harbor for the night.
But the Levite absolutely refuses. His logic is entirely rooted in a deadly in-group bias. He states clearly that they will not turn aside into a city of foreigners.
He literally says no to a fortified city.
Yes. He forces his family to push onward in the dark to reach Gibeah, which is a city belonging to the Israelite tribe of Benjamin. His assumption is that the pagans will victimize them, but his own people will protect them.
The bitter irony highlighted by both study Bibles is just deafening here.
It really is.
Because it's a classic case of in-group bias blinding someone to actual danger. We do this all the time today, assuming that our specific tribe, whatever that means to us, is inherently the safe bet.
Right. We let our guard down.
Exactly.
Right.
But here, the sources are screaming that the Levites' assumptions are dangerously inverted. Heavily fortified Jebus would have been a profoundly safer refuge. He walks right past it and marches his vulnerable family straight into an Israelite nightmare.
And that misplaced trust brings them right into the town square of Gibeah just as night falls. But the illusion of safety evaporates the moment they sit down.
Let's unpack that arrival, because the scene in that square is chilling. They wait, and nobody offers them a place to stay.
Which is unheard of.
Right. Given what we just discussed about the fierce cultural mandate of hospitality, an empty square isn't just rude. It's a massive breach of ancient norms. It's a siren going off, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. In a healthy, ancient Near Eastern city, the local elders would be at the gates or the square. A traveler arriving at dusk should have sparked a competition among the locals over who got the honor of hosting them.
Wow, a competition.
Yeah. So the fact that they are ignored tells the original reader that the social ecosystem of Gibeah is profoundly diseased. The authority of the elders has completely collapsed.
So finally, an old man comes in from working in the fields.
Yeah.
And the irony here is that he isn't even a local Benjaminite.
No, he's not.
He is a foreigner in Gibeah, originally from the hill countries of just like the Levite. He sees them, takes them in, and issues a very specific, terrifying warning. He says, do not spend the night in the open square.
Because the old man knows exactly what the local men are capable of. He brings the travelers into his home, feeds their donkeys, provides for them. And, for a brief, fleeting moment, it seems like the ancient safety net might actually hold.
But then it shatters.
Right. The mob surrounds the house.
The sources refer to the men in this mob using a specific Hebrew idiom, don't they? Sons of Belial.
Yes, which translates roughly to worthless, wicked, or perverse men. They pound on the door and shout a demand to the old host. They say, bring out the man who came to your house so we can know him.
And in this biblical context, know is a direct euphemism for violent, gang-perpetrated sexual abuse.
Yes, it is.
Wait, anyone who has read the book of Genesis is going to be hit with massive, sickening deja vu right now.
Oh, completely.
By mirroring the story of Sodom and Gomorrah from Genesis 19 so perfectly. I mean, the travelers arriving at dusk, sitting in the square, the outsider host, the wicked mob demanding to assault the male guests. Is the author essentially weaponizing Israel's own history against them?
That is the exact theological point the author is making, and it is devastating. Sodom and Gomorrah were the ultimate biblical symbols of pagan depravity, right? Cities so irredeemable they were wiped off the map by God.
Right.
So by framing the Israelite city of Gibeah exactly like Sodom, the text makes this horrific argument. Israel has degraded so completely that they have become indistinguishable from the most notoriously wicked pagan cities God previously destroyed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the no-king era has literally turned God's chosen people into Sodom.
Which brings us to what has to be the most grotesque compromise imaginable. The old man, desperate to uphold this sacred law of hospitality and protect his male guest, steps outside. And he offers the mob his own virgin daughter and the Levite's concubine to spare his male guest.
This is exactly where that warped righteousness we discussed earlier rears its head.
Right, because he thinks he's doing the right thing.
He does. The old man believes he is acting honorably. In his cultural calculus, the protection of a male guest under his roof supersedes the safety of the women in his own household. The very laws of hospitality, which were designed to protect the vulnerable, are twisted into a justification for sacrificing them.
It's sickening. And the mob refuses the old man's offer. But then this is where the Levite, the man representing the religious leadership of Israel, the husband who traveled for days to win this woman back, commits an act of staggering cowardice.
The ultimate betrayal.
Exactly. The text tells us he takes hold of his own concubine and forcefully thrusts her out the door to the mob. He feeds her to the wolves to save himself. I mean, the very institutions meant to protect the vulnerable, the role of a husband, are twisted into a weapon against her. Is the text intentionally highlighting the Levite's utter lack of empathy here?
It absolutely is. The Levite doesn't just fail to intervene. He is the active mechanism of her destruction. And his chilling indifference carries over into the horrifying events of the next morning because the mob abuses her all night long, leaving her only as dawn breaks.
So the sun comes up. The morning after, the Levite wakes up, presumably having slept through the night while this happened.
Yeah.
He opens the door to leave, and he finds his concubine lying at the threshold. The text says her hands are reaching out to the doorway. He looks down at her battered body and simply utters 5 cold words. Get up, let's go.
But there is no answer. She is dead.
And what he does next just defies modern comprehension. He loads her body onto his donkey, travels home, takes a knife, and dismembers her body into 12 pieces.
It's incredibly graphic.
It is. He then sends those 12 pieces via messengers throughout the 12 tribes of Israel. I need you to explain the context of this, because to a modern listener, this just sounds like the work of a deranged serial killer.
Right. It sounds like absolute madness. But according to the sources, to understand this, we have to look at ancient suzerain vassal treaties and tribal confederacy oaths. This dismemberment was a highly formalized, drastic, physical call to arms.
Call to arms.
Yes. The Holman notes draw a parallel to a later biblical event where King Saul cuts up a yoke of oxen and sends the bloody animal parts to the tribes to muster an army.
So it's essentially a draft notice written in blood.
A draft notice with an implicit covenant curse attached to it. When an ancient Israelite tribe receives a bloody piece of flesh from a messenger, the psychological terror is profound. The message is basically, look at the atrocity committed within our borders. If you do not come out to avenge this, may the gods do to you what has been done to this flesh. It forces an unavoidable immediate reaction.
Wow. So the Levite is weaponizing the horror of what he actually facilitated.
Exactly.
And the NAA map source details the colossal fallout of this delivery. The other 11 tribes of Israel unite. They muster a massive army and demand that the tribe of Benjamin hand over the men of Gibeah for justice.
But the tribe of Benjamin refuses.
Which is just another mind-bending layer of in-group bias. The Benjaminites look at a city full of murderers and decide to defend them simply because they share a tribal name.
Tribal loyalty completely overrides objective morality. The Benjaminites deploy their armies to defend Gibeah, and this sparks a massive, bloody civil war between the united tribes and Benjamin.
And Benjamin loses badly, right?
Yes. The result is nearly total annihilation. The 11 tribes decimate the tribe of Benjamin. Only a tiny remnant of 600 men manages to escape and flee to the Rock of Rimmon. The united tribes basically burn the Benjaminite cities to the ground.
Look, it's just a tragedy on top of tragedy. When the 12 tribes first receive those gruesome pieces, their reaction is, nothing like this has ever happened or been seen since the Exodus.
Right.
It's a story about a society that was sleepwalking through its own moral decay. They tolerated the erosion of their culture for so long, and it took a shock to the system so undeniably gruesome to finally wake them up from their apathy.
But the real tragedy is that they woke up way too late. They didn't intervene when the cultural rot was manageable. They only reacted when it produced an atrocity on their literal doorsteps. And even then, their reaction, a brutal, scorched earth civil war, merely compounds the violence.
Right, they just burn it all down.
Exactly. The social fabric is so deeply torn they have no idea how to mend it without destroying everything. Which brings us to a final, lingering thought for you to carry with you today.
Yeah, please.
This deep dive into Judges 19 isn't just an ancient true crime story. It operates as a terrifying mirror. It is a profound warning about what happens when the social contracts we rely on completely invert. We often look at ancient texts and assume these dangers are locked in the past, but think about the digital age we live in right now.
That's a really good point.
We have created our own global town squares, right? Where elders are absent and mob justice rules. We see people destroyed online, and just like the Benjaminites, we often rush to defend the indefensible simply because the perpetrators belong to our political or social tribe. When safety becomes the most dangerous place, and when protectors become perpetrators, how does a society rebuild its moral foundation? When we are shielded by screens, convinced of our own warped righteousness, aren't we just doing what is right in our own eyes? It makes you wonder, what warning signs of decay are we currently ignoring? And what will it take to wake us up before the damage is irreversible?
That is a deeply unsettling but necessary question to sit with. Thank you for walking us through this, and thank you, the listener, for joining us as we work through this incredibly challenging but vital history. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other. God blesses all the listeners. We will see you on the next Deep Dive.